Welcome to the Hope a Thinga podcast, where we discuss how to spot and avoid bogus money-making opportunities. I am Melissa Atkins, the Training and Development Coordinator for the Native Learning Center. Today on the show, we are excited to have Rhonda Perkins, and the Attorney and Chief of Staff, Division of Marketing Practices for the Federal Trade Commission, and we have Katie Daffin, the Assistant Director, Division of Marketing Practices for the Federal Trade Commission as well. They are going to share their expertise on if you're looking for a job or a business opportunity, scammers are looking for you. They post fake jobs to steal your personal information or promote bogus businesses, opportunities, and coaching programs, and take your money but don't deliver any useful information. Hear about these and other money-making schemes and learn how to spot and avoid these scams. Very excited for today's podcast. With that being said, would you guys like to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Yes, absolutely. I'll start. My name is Katie. I am an assistant director, like you said, in the Division of Marketing Practices at the Federal Trade Commission. And just briefly, what is the Federal Trade Commission? We are the nation's consumer protection agency. So we worry about deceptive and unfair practices in the marketplace, which is a very big mission, and then also about competition issues. But with that, I'll turn it over to Rhonda to introduce herself.
Hi, and thank you so much for having us. My name is Rhonda Perkins. I'm an attorney and Chief of Staff of the Division of Marketing Practices in the FTC's Bureau of Consumer Protection. And Katie talked a little bit about what the FTC is. And marketing practices, just for a little background, we house the agency's fraud program. So we stop scams harming people, for example, looking to start their own businesses or generate additional income by going after job scams and fraudulent investment schemes. We also target business and government impersonator scams, telemarketing schemes, and illegal robocalls, among other issues.
Wow, okay, so I can't wait to dive into all of that. With the first question, what are some examples of job scams and bogus business opportunity based on FTC cases?
Great, and I'll launch in here to talk about bogus business opportunities, which is a very big category. If you out there have ever thought about starting your own business or being your own boss, or even earning a living from investing, something that will give you more flexibility to work from home and make money on your own schedule, you might have run into some of these bogus business opportunities. They're designed to look like real, legitimate ways to make money, and so they seem very realistic. But in fact, all of the claims about how much money you're going to make end up being lies at the end of the day. And so I'll just give a few examples of these. One, online business coaching. So these are the kinds of scams that tell you you can make big money on the internet with little or no experience. There's a proven system, and if you follow it, then you can make a lot of money online. Kind of makes sense because many people do make a lot of money by knowing secrets about the internet. But unfortunately, these scammers are just telling lies. There is no, easy way that they have to offer you to make money. And people learn the hard way after signing up and paying something to start that service. Another sort of twist on it is they might say that they can help you make money by teaching you how to flip houses or, make money in real estate or make a lot of money on the stock market. Again, these sound really convincing because people do make a lot of money in real estate or on the stock market. And they claim, sometimes even with very convincing, personal stories, that if you just pay for their system, they're going to teach you how to succeed right away. But unfortunately, we've seen a lot of these that end up offering little to nothing at the end of the day. So people just lose all the money they invested. And then there's one other kind of scam I want to talk about before turning it over to Rhonda, which is pyramid schemes. These are really prevalent, really common these days, unfortunately. People saying you can change your life, you can quit your job, or you could get rich by selling our products or services and then getting other people to sign up to also sell the products or services. But if the real focus is on recruiting other people and bringing them in to the business opportunity, then it's a scam. That's a pyramid scheme. They're just trying to get a constant flow of new people to get in. And what that means is that at the end of the day, most people are going to lose money. That's just the way it is. And so it's a very tricky area. And even people who are interested in getting into multi-level marketing really need to watch out, because if the focus is on recruiting, then that means that most of the people are going to end up getting harmed. So with that, there's also a whole other category of job scams. So I'll turn it over to Rhonda to talk about that.
Thanks, Katie. So just to give a few more examples of what people might see when they're looking for jobs, and we know that people are looking for a way to make a living or just earn additional income, and scammers know that too. They advertise the same way honest employers do, online, through ads, job sites, social media, even old school newspapers, also TV and radio. And they claim, just like Katie said, you can make a lot of money, be your own boss, set your own schedule, and they promise a job that they really want, personal information or money. So here are some of the things that we want people to watch out for if they're looking for a job. Virtual personal assistant. So people apply online, they'll get hired, they think, as a personal assistant, then they'll get a check and they're told to deposit it into their bank account and use that money to either buy gift cards or equipment or supplies for a new client. Then the scammer will ask for the PIN numbers from the gift card, or they'll say, send some of that money to someone else through a company like Western Union or MoneyGram. Another variation, nanny or caregiver. So for folks who are looking for those types of jobs, they'll search online or use a job site. Once again, the person gets hired and they receive a check. There's always some excuse for an overpayment. Deposit the check and send it to someone else. Mystery shopping. So scammers pretend to hire people as mystery shoppers and say, oh, your first assignment, evaluate a retailer. It'll be someone who sells gift cards, for examples, or a money transfer service like Western Union or MoneyGram. Once again, they'll get a check with instructions to deposit it, and we need you to test out the services by wiring this money. Another recent scam we've seen, folks looking for at-home employment and data processing, for example. They'll even finish a long interview with the scammer. The scammer will ask for the social security number and other personal information. Then same type of scam. They'll send them a check to buy equipment. There's always a reason why there's too much money. They have to send it to someone else. And another recent variation involves cryptocurrency. So once again, we'll have a scammer listing on some sort of job site, and they might even solicit people who haven't applied for a job and say, we have something for you related to cryptocurrency, such as recruiting investors, selling or mining cryptocurrency, or helping convert cash into cryptocurrency. And so the scammer will send a check, once again, deposit it into your account, withdraw some money, buy cryptocurrency, and send it on to someone. And so what they all have in common, these are different variations of a fake check scam. By law, banks have to make deposited funds available quickly to people, usually within a couple of days. So once the funds are made available, it looks like the check has cleared, but that doesn't mean it's good. It can take weeks for a fake check to be discovered. And at that point, the scammer has your money that you sent to them, and you're stuck paying the money back to the bank. This is something we see a lot and that we really want people to know about.
That sounds very unfortunate that happens, but it's nice to know that the FTC is here for issues like that and is able to jump on to situations like that. I know with the database that you guys have, you sent an email about the most recent scams or the most likely scams that are going on. Does that also apply to this? Do you guys also send out, or is that the same email?
Yes, thanks so much for talking about that. We have something at the FTC called consumer alerts. And so when people report to us what's happening in the marketplace, we try to get the word out to everyone else. Hey, watch out for this. This is the biggest, newest scam that we're seeing. And so if people are interested in these topics, they can just go to ftc.gov/consumer alerts and sign up for those, either in English or in Spanish, and get sort of the most up-to-date information about what's going on out there.
I love that system personally. I signed up myself, and I did not realize that most of the scams that we're getting, the FTC knew about it. So it's kind of like a heads up, like you see this phone number, report it, or you know what it is. So I think that is great. It also seems like they make the situation sound super enticing, kind of lure you, like the carrot and stick kind of situation, lure you in so they can steal all your information.
Yeah.
Which is very unfortunate. So if it sounds too good, you should question it. Or are they able to contact FTC to see, I've got this email or I've got this job opportunity, seems a little weird. Are they able to talk to anybody about that?
People can file a report with us, but another thing I would recommend is just starting with an online search, because a lot of times if you search for, the kind of call you're getting or the kind of offer you're getting, an FTC article might be one of the things that comes up in your search to warn you that other people have seen this. Or just talk to someone, a trusted advisor who's outside of the situation. What we've seen is that really helps people avoid bad situations as well.
Other people catch the red flags or are able to avoid the situation.
Exactly.
That's very good information. Thank you for that. My second question is, can you give an explanation of scammer tactics and bogus claims to help understand how the schemes work?
Absolutely. And this goes right back to those red flags you just mentioned. There's certain things that if you hear them, you should run the other way when it comes to business opportunities. And so I'll say one of them is, you got the job, deposit this check and send money off elsewhere or buy gift cards. That is what Rhonda was just talking about with the fake check scams. And we see that very often, whether it's checks or, peer-to-peer transfers like Venmo or Zelle or crypto. It doesn't matter. It's a scam. Another big red flag is if someone's telling you, just recruit more people to make big money. Okay, that should make you think pyramid scheme and stay far away from that one. And then just more generally, claims like make money selling in your community, be your own boss, learn from our experts how to generate, quote, guaranteed income, or work from home and make money with little time and effort. All of those are things that would make my ears perk up and be very worried that we're talking about a scam. And I also was just thinking that we could talk about, then how do you protect yourself if you are out there looking for work? What should people keep in mind? What should they do in addition to knowing those red flags? And so we have a few pieces of advice. One is to take your time. And, this has to do with taking a minute to go and talk to a trusted person too. If you're hearing a really high pressure sales pitch, like you have to act now, or this opportunity is going to be gone, that is a red flag in and of itself. And taking the time out to just think about it, talk with somebody else, do research can be really helpful. So that leads to the next one, which is do your own research. Search online for the company's name and put in words like review or scam or complaint and see what comes up. And then, watch out for fake check scams or anyone sending you money and telling you to send it along or do anything with it. And then finally, be really skeptical about success stories and testimonials, like personal stories where people are saying they made a ton of money, or even online reviews. Unfortunately, we have seen way too often that those are just fake. And so you really can't trust them, even if it seems like it might be real. You need to still take that time out and still do your own research. So that's kind of some of the red flags and some of the advice. But Rhonda and I were talking, we thought it might be interesting also for her to sort of tell a story about what it's like from a person's perspective when they encounter a business opportunity fraud like this. Rhonda, do you want to tell that?
Yeah, so I have an example from a bogus money making opportunity that involves reselling merchandise. And this is something that we see all the time. And so the FTC brought a case against a company called Moda Latina. And according to the FTC, the company targeted Latina consumers with Spanish language ads. And just as you mentioned, would lure them in to buying a work at home business and saying they could earn large profits by reselling luxury products such as brand name perfumes. So the company advertised, do you want to have your own business? Earn up to $1,000 per week. And this was during the pandemic. So, crisis, what crisis? I forgot about that ever since I started selling with this company. It completely changed my life and my finances. These are some of the things that Katie was just mentioning. But in reality, people were left with hundreds of dollars in losses in unsellable products. And for people who are financially distressed and looking to make ends meet, for something like this, $300 is a lot of money. So when the FTC takes this type of action in court against a company, we file evidence in support of our cases, including sworn statements from people who have lost money to those scams. So I want to tell you about a woman named Lillian who thought she'd be able to make a lot of money working from home after seeing those ads that I just told you about. And it'll give you an idea of a scammer's tactics and what this really looks like for someone who unfortunately loses money to one of these schemes. So in April of 2020, Lillian was watching a telenovela on Univision, and during a commercial break, she saw a Spanish language ad for a perfume club saying she could make money working from home selling authentic and famous brand name perfumes. The ad promised large profits and said earn up to $500 per week. It told viewers, call now, order your membership, and begin to make a lot of money. And this was in all caps with a bunch of exclamation points. So Lillian was looking to earn some extra money working from home part-time. Her grandmother had sold perfumes for years, so she thought that this would offer a similar opportunity so she could make some extra money for her family. She couldn't work full-time. Her husband was a service member. They were stationed in Virginia, and her dad lived back home in Texas and had cancer, so she was traveling back and forth all the time to take care of him. And I think a lot of people can identify with that because a lot of people are experiencing these types of things. So the opportunity to earn money on a flexible schedule was ideal for her. Lillian called the number on the screen of the ad that she saw on TV. The person she spoke with said it was a great opportunity to make money. Just pay $300 and we'll send you these authentic brand name perfumes, gold jewelry, beauty products, catalogs for future orders, and an iPad. They told her that she would get her investment back and earn much more, depending on how much she wanted to work. Once again, saying it was very flexible. So after Lillian agreed to sign up, she was told she would receive a kit with the products but she would have to be home for delivery and pay with a money order. So then a woman named Yesenia called her and she was very aggressive. She said the call is being recorded. She wanted to make sure Lillian knew you have to be home to pay for the package with a money order. She threatened to report her to a credit bureau if she wasn't home to make the payment. Then she called her again later that night and the next day and repeated the same thing. And of course, Lillian was very concerned about the calls and what she perceived to be threats. So Lillian received the package. It had a couple of catalogs. To her, what looked like some cheap costume jewelry, fake eyelashes, and a few knockoff perfumes. And of course, the tablet that she was promised did not arrive. So she called the company and someone said, oh, the remaining items, the tablet, it's delayed due to COVID-19. They kept promising the rest of the order would arrive. 5 weeks later, she hadn't received the items. The company said, you just have to keep waiting. So Lillian told the company she didn't want to get into trouble selling knockoff perfumes. Her grandmother had told her that's illegal and dishonest. So she filed a report with the FTC from her phone, and the company did not return her money. And all she got was low quality, unsellable products. She didn't earn those promised big profits, and she felt like she was ripped off and lost her investment. So after gathering these types of stories from people and filing a court action, the FTC did obtain a settlement that permanently bans the operators of the scam from selling those types of money-making opportunities and imposes a money judgment. So this is the type of case where it's important to get into court, stop the conduct, and keep people from losing more money. But I hope that Lillian's story might resonate with people so when they hear these types of tactics from scammers, that they won't lose money, and they'll know, as Katie mentioned, don't feel you have to act immediately. Don't feel pressure. Talk to someone you trust about what you're seeing. And then unfortunately, if you do lose money, report it to the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov.
That is an extremely sad story, and unfortunately, I'm sure there are more stories like it. I'm sure many people watching this will also relate to it, whether how small or how big the sum is. It's still very devastating. So once again, I can't stress enough how great it is that the FTC is able, like a reliable source to go to say I was scammed, and the FTC does take action. So it's great that to know that the FTC does take legal action and make sure that this cannot happen to anybody else. So important. If you see something, say something. Because it also helps your database, correct?
Exactly. And one more thing I want to mention about that, similar to Lillian, they were really targeting a particular community. And the FTC has always worked for all consumers, but we know from research and experience that fraud and other illegal practices can have a disproportionately negative impact on different communities. And we know that scammers target different communities sometimes in unique ways, including tribal communities. So to make sure we're fulfilling the agency's mission to protect all consumers, we have the Every Community Initiative, and we research how different communities are affected. We bring cases to stop practices that target or affect those communities and provide education to help people avoid those practices, and collaborate with people like you, who we know work with those communities and are trusted to help us accomplish those goals. But it, like you said, it's hard to do that if we don't know about what's going on. So it's really important that people report to reportfraud.ftc.gov.
Yeah, and I could say a little bit more about that since you asked about it too, that our reporting database. So, we want to know when anyone sees frauds, scams like we've been talking about, or even bad business practices that you just see out there that don't seem fair to consumers. We want to know about it, and we especially want to know about it from particular communities in the country, where we don't hear from them every day. And filing a report with us is a way of doing something to help protect other people in the United States. I do want to be clear, we can't respond to every complaint we receive. So we get tens of thousands per week. And so it isn't a situation of, you're going to get particular legal advice or get a lawyer working on your case. But we do use the reports we get every single day as we investigate and bring law enforcement cases. And, like the story Rhonda was talking about, she got a call from us to ask if we could hear more so that we could, build a case based on her experience and other people's. And the other thing is that when people file a report at reportfraud.ftc.gov, that report is also available to more than 3,000 other law enforcers across the country, either at the federal or the state or the local level. So it's not just us who can act on what you're seeing. It's a lot of different law enforcement agencies. And even though, we can't follow directly up on every complaint, you will get advice about what to do to recover money and about how to guard against fraud in the future. And then the other last thing is that reports also help us know what's new in the marketplace and what's going on with the brand new scams that are starting to happen. And we are able to alert people about that so that other people can protect themselves and help protect their friends and family by talking about scams, so that when they see it, they know that it's a fraud and they need to stay away from it. And that has a huge impact. So this is what we were talking about before. We're able to get the word out through our consumer alerts as one example. And just one more plug for that, if you wanted to remember, it's at ftc.gov/consumer alerts.
Yes, you can say as many times as you like. It's a great website. It is very beneficial. I highly recommend everyone, especially tribal members, anyone in the tribal community, to definitely report anything that they see. Would you say that there's certain areas within your database that you've noticed typically don't tend to report? Or overall, would you say that majority people do tend to report?
It's such a great question. So we have done a lot of research on that question because we know that if we just do our law enforcement and do our policy work and our education work based on the reports we see, is that going to be protecting everyone in the country effectively, or is it not? And so we've done a lot of research about that. And unfortunately, we have found that certain communities report at a lower rate. And so if you are interested in this topic, we have a report we put out called Serving Communities of Color, where we go through the research on this. And it's an analysis based on zip codes. So we couldn't really look easily at every community of color in the country just based on the data limitations. But you can look at likely, communities with a higher percentage of people from the Black community and communities with a higher percentage of Latinos. And we were able to even compare the reports for those groups with cases that we brought, where we looked at the actual database that the scammers had. And we saw, for example, that some of those scams actually affected, let's say, majority African American communities at a higher rate. And yet we received reports from that community at a lower rate than the white population. So it made us even more aware that our outreach efforts are just extremely important because we want to be hearing about what's happening from every community in the country. And that's not just something that happens naturally. I mean, not everyone knows what the FTC is, obviously, and there are many reasons that we wouldn't be hearing from everyone at the same rates, which is why we so appreciate you talking about these topics on your podcast, because we are very interested in receiving those reports.
Well, personally, would like to thank you. The Native Learning Center would like to thank you because we do appreciate having you guys on this platform and be able to ask these questions, because I'm sure everyone at home is having the same questions that I'm asking, or probably have even more questions. So it's great to know that they're able to go to the FTC, very, very user-friendly, and able to ask those questions or get advice if needed, which is great to know you have a reliable source. My third question is, why is it important to report money-making scams? How and where can you report money-making scams? I know we just went through this. Is there any additional information you would like to add about that?
Yeah, I'd actually like to just to give you an idea of how big the database is that you asked about. And so Katie talked about report fraud, ftc.gov, and how it's available to more than 3,000 law enforcers. And I just wanted to give you a sense of how many reports that we receive. So when people report fraud or other bad business practices, that information goes into the Consumer Sentinel Network database. And it also includes reports from other contributors, such as federal and state agencies, the Better Business Bureau, and other contributors. So last year, we received 5.7 million reports, and 2.8 million of those were related to fraud. And people reported losing $5.9 billion to fraud. And the median loss was $500. So some people lost less and some people lost a lot more. And in the first half of this year alone, we've received 2.4 million reports, with more than 1 million of those related to fraud. And this is just for reports that have made their way to us. And as Katie mentioned, we know that there are communities, maybe they don't know about us, they're not reporting. So this is just the tip of the iceberg and why it's so important for people to report, so that we get their stories and know what's going on, and can either give them advice or take action to stop those scams. And since we've been talking about business opportunities and job scams, that continues to be in the top 10 fraud categories reported to the FTC. And all of that data is publicly available if folks are interested. If people want to know what's going on in their state, for example, they can go to ftc.gov/data and get more information. But we don't get this information. We can't give people the best advice or take action if we don't know about it. So once again, that's why it's so important for people to go to reportfraud.ftc.gov.
Thank you for that. Truly do appreciate having you guys here talking about this. Is there anything else we would like to add?
One more thing I'll mention is for lots of great advice, consumer.ftc.gov has a ton of information about everything that we've just been talking about and much more. We can't say it enough, reportfraud.ftc.gov, and Katie said it twice. I'm going to say it again, ftc.gov/consumer alerts. I subscribe to them too. I work here and I still can't even know all of the things that are going on. And so one way that we can all help each other is by sharing good, trustworthy resources when we find them. And I hope people will share these resources in their communities.
Hopefully, the whole goal for the FTC is to bring communities together and to protect those communities. So thank you so much for doing everything you guys can. Truly do appreciate it. And thank you so much for coming onto our platform. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much. Thanks to Rhonda Perkins and Katie Daffin for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, thanks for listening to the Hope a Thing a podcast. If you enjoy our show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google and podcasts. Also visit our website, nativelearningcenter.com, to find information on upcoming webinar and virtual trainings. Would you guys like to say the website one more time before we sign off?
Sure. Please file reports with the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. You can sign up for consumer alerts at ftc.gov/consumer alerts.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a beautiful day.